Okay, Ben, so our last video, we had some kind of funny interview questions, and I mean, they were really obtuse, but what should an interview look like?
Yeah, so from an organization standpoint, if they're trying to get the best person for a job, first of all, it's a game of probabilities. Any human decision is, right, involving humans, because human beings are very complex. So in a selection situation, when you're hiring, what you're trying to do is increase the probability of getting somebody great and decrease the probability of getting somebody bad. And the way that you do that, the number one thing that I tell employers, and this is based on the science, decades of research from industrial and organizational psychology strongly shows that you need to use structured interviews over unstructured interviews.
So like I've sat in these things where people, it's obvious they're just going, if you could be an animal, what would you be?
Yeah, I mean, so that's ridiculous stuff because it's probably not tied at all to any demands of the actual job.
But it's structured, right? So HR actually gave them a sheet. So what does good structure for an interview look like?
So, well, first, an unstructured interview is just the informal, hey, I'm going to get to know this person, we're going to shake hands, I'm going to see how their handshake feels, and that's going to give me some indication whether or not they're a good person for the job. Not good. The structured interview starts with analyzing the job and understanding what are the specific requirements of the job, what are the types of knowledge, the skills, the abilities that are required to do that job well, and then crafting questions that relate to those, right? So I'll give you an example. My wife and I, we were hiring a nanny, right? So to watch our kids. And being a dork, I was like, well, this is an opportunity for us to have a structured interview, right? So I looked up, did a little research on all the different job requirements and things that nannies really should know about. And one of them that came to me through this research was, hey, well, we need somebody who can handle emergencies with kids. I mean, totally relevant to the job, right? And so a question that we asked each and every candidate was, tell me about a time when you handled an emergency with a child, right? So first of all, a good answer, they would have an example because they've done it before, and they would explain their thought process, and they would have some good results as an outcome of that situation. And that gave us a way to then rate that person on that specific facet. And then we had a handful of other questions, but constructed in a similar way. And so a structured interview, you have questions that are related to the requirements of the job. You ask the same questions to each and every candidate, and all the people who are in the interview from the organization side rate them after each interview in a systematic way.
So wait a minute. I've got to write my own job description. I can't just Google this. I'll have to understand.
I mean, if you're trying to hire somebody, you probably should understand what type of job you're hiring for.
Yeah, and I think another thing, especially if somebody has multiple rounds of interviews or going to go about and people might ask those same kind of questions, one thing that can be super helpful is if everybody rates somebody on a number scale, for instance, which you don't have to do this, but you might want to say like, well, a poor answer looks like, I've never responded to an emergency, or I'll just call my friends and talk about sports. Yeah, that's a bad answer. But like a 5 might look like, hey, listen, I have an emergency set of contacts from the parents. I am trained in CPR. Absolutely. I know my route to the hospital. Yeah. Or for a technical job, a poor answer looks like this, and a 5, and then you can compare those.
You got it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think it's a good way to reduce the difference in the way people rate people and take out some of that capriciousness of, well, this person had a British accent, and I really want to work with somebody
who sounds smart. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I love that because that's calibrating all the different raters on what right looks like and what not right looks like in that job as well, so they can have a similar type of rating across different candidates.